accepted my invitation, and I did not know what to tell them. I will do my best tonight. No, you're gonna give your all, or you don't come at all.
The 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris saw Celine Dion's triumphant comeback to the stage. The performance was riveting regardless of her faultless performance as Hymne à l'amour. What really sold it, though, was her son René Charles Angelil's heartfelt reaction. René Charles, visibly moved by his mother's metamorphosis and the triumphs they had achieved as a family, was spotted sobbing behind the scenes. Their touching hug following her performance showcased the unbreakable link that had sustained them through indescribable hardships. He had repeatedly told Celine, "She's a liar, she's not okay," when she had attempted to reassure everyone that her symptoms were insignificant. In the face of one of her life's greatest obstacles, Celine Dion returned to the stage with remarkable tenacity. The legendary singer came clean about her diagnosis of stiff person syndrome, SPS, in 2022. SPS is an extremely uncommon neurological disorder that impacts around 1 million individuals. Mobility and quality of life are frequently affected by the crippling stiffness and severe muscular spasms caused by this autoimmune condition. A career setback and a profoundly emotional battle, the diagnosis was for Dion, whose existence revolved around her voice and performances. Prior to her formal diagnosis, Dion's life was already negatively impacted by the symptoms of SPS. While touring Germany in 2008 for her Taking Chances on a world tour, she began to have worrisome symptoms. Her performance was hindered by uncontrolled voice fluctuations and limb stiffness. "It was as if I had no say in the matter," she mentioned afterwards. Her symptoms became worse over time, and she occasionally experienced muscular spasms that rendered her temporarily immobile. High dosages of Valium became Dion's go-to for symptom management as her health problems worsened. Although she acknowledged that the medication's effects faded rapidly, she persisted in performing despite the lack of a diagnosis. Her performances were becoming more and more hindered by the violent spasms at this time. Juggling her work, her children, and her grief after the death of her husband, René Angelil, Dion persevered through her hardships. Dion was able to prioritize her health during the worldwide COVID-19 stoppage. She finally made time to prioritize her health by seeking the advice of doctors to identify the source of her ongoing ailments. Because it finally put everything into perspective, she said that her diagnosis was a relief. Dion reported that she was unable to rehearse for her much-anticipated Las Vegas engagement in October 2021 due to severe and recurring muscular spasms. Her fans were worried, but no one knew what was wrong with her. Substantial effects of SPS were noted. Her daily routine became a labyrinth of challenges, from sudden muscular spasms that might temporarily paralyze her to continuous discomfort in her neck and limbs. It became difficult for her to do the things she used to enjoy, like cooking or playing energetic games with her kids. Her vocal cords were constantly inflamed, making singing, the core of her vocation, appear more and more impossible. Dion has spoken openly about the frustration and uncertainty she had about returning to the stage in public interviews, as a result of her physical restrictions. For a long time, Dion kept her battle a secret, concentrating instead on getting well so she could return to work. Nevertheless, she was aware that she would have to share her story publicly when her health deteriorated. Dion refused to allow the mental and physical toll of her disease define who she was. As part of her intensive treatment regimen, she underwent vocal therapy, physical rehabilitation, and cutting-edge medical procedures. Whether it was sitting through painful treatment sessions or stretching to ease muscular spasms, her ambition to heal was as unwavering as it had been when she first rose to fame on a global scale. Dion made her stiff person syndrome diagnosis public in a heartfelt Instagram post that went live on December 8, 2022. She spoke frankly about the effects of SPS on her mobility and singing in the video, as well as how the condition caused her to postpone her 2023 tour. Her supporters were reassured that she was working hard to regain her strength. After announcing in May 2023 that she would not be able to continue her global tour due to health reasons, Dion ultimately decided to call it quits. "Traveling is challenging even when you're feeling well," she remarked. She reiterated her resolve to return at her own pace, despite the pain of canceling. She was able to draw strength from her admirers and family throughout a difficult time because she was so honest. The year 2024 marked a turning point when Dion revealed she will be performing at the opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics. She was terrified of losing her voice, her artistic vision, and her connection to her audience at this major event, which took place on one of the world's most prominent stages. She had been quietly training for months, regaining her strength and honing her voice. Even her family went through a major shift around this period. Dion found the most solace in her three boys, Renee Charles, Eddie, and Nelson, who were twins. Because of his position as the oldest, Renee Charles had a pivotal role. He was a constant source of support and inspiration for his family. The open discussion Dion had with her children about her sickness was a topic she frequently brought up. "This is something we'll learn to live with. Mom's not dying," she told them. Renee Charles was accompanied by her children at every turn. During her return, Renee stood out as an example of someone who could be both subtle and influential. With the residual effects of SPS casting doubt on every step of her objective, Dion's preparation for her return performance appeared daunting. However, her unwavering support system, including his presence backstage during rehearsals, helped her overcome these obstacles. Would she have the time to prepare? Was she physically capable of completing such a demanding performance? Dion saw the prospect of returning to the stage as an exciting opportunity as well as a formidable obstacle. Though it was far from certain that she would be able to return to the stage, her perseverance and the love and encouragement she got from her loved ones shone through in the endeavor. When discussing Celine Dion's strength, it is impossible to exclude the mention of the deep love she had for her late husband, René Angelil. The bedrock of her remarkable career was René's steadfast faith in her abilities as her manager and business partner. The love and collaboration that permeated their decades-long friendship shone through. Celine raised their three boys and faced her health problems head-on after René passed away in 2016, focusing on the strength of their relationship. That connection became the rock upon which she strove as her health declined, to regain her singing voice and theatrical presence. When Celine was ill without René, her son René Charles was a rock for her, and she spoke often about how strong he was. René Charles helped keep the peace in her family when she was just 14 years old. She found solace in his presence as the dreadful impact of her condition hit. René Charles knew Celine as Mom, a lady whose resiliency motivated him to take on a position he had never considered for himself, even if the world recognized her as an icon. Whispering words of encouragement to her throughout treatment and rehearsals, he quietly became her cheerleader while juggling his own goals and development. As she faced the unknowns of her illness, his faith in her capacity to triumph over hardship was a guiding light. He accompanied her to her doctor's visits, sat through her therapy sessions, and was always there to reassure her when she needed it. Their closeness is shown via stories about their family. Celine frequently tells the tale of how René Charles surprised her on a bad day. Noticing that she was having difficulty with her therapeutic exercises, he discreetly put a handwritten note on her bedside. "You are the strongest person I've ever met," the message stated. It became a daily source of inspiration for Celine, a visible reminder of her son's love and belief in her, to keep going and know that she will get through this. René Charles inspired her to take a chance on performing in the Paris Olympics when the chance came her way. Despite the support of her children, she continued to struggle with unanswered questions. What if I'm not good enough to succeed? Celine was perplexed. Because of her illness, she could not foretell how her preparations would turn out, and the prospect of failure was always present. But René Charles told her that just trying to accomplish such a massive task was a win. René Charles frequently remained by Celine's side throughout rehearsals, as she labored relentlessly to regain her strength. During one especially tough session, he once gave her a water bottle and joked, "You're making the rest of us look lazy, Mom." The lighthearted quip made her laugh, relieved her anxiety, and made her realize how important he was in her life. In addition to helping out his mom, René Charles has other responsibilities in the household. He has made it a point to be very close to his 13-year-old brothers, Eddie and Nelson, as he is the oldest of the three. Whether it's helping them with their homework, taking them to hockey games, or just spending quality time together, they look up to him as a protector and a role model. According to Celine, who has seen his change, they're growing up knowing they can count on each other despite our challenges. The Dion Angelil family has an incredible and motivating feeling of unity. Their power is in their solidarity, which they display in everything from rejoicing in minor triumphs to supporting one another during tough times. "We don't take anything for granted," Celine stated shortly after René's death. Having been through so much together in terms of love, sorrow, and perseverance, they truly value each other and cherish every moment they spend together. The constant encouragement from loved ones served as a rock and a sobering reminder of how important the Paris performance was getting closer. For Celine, her loved ones, and the millions of fans who had cheered her on throughout the years, returning to the stage was a profoundly significant event. Even if it failed miserably, it would still show the bravery it required to attempt, and her strength and their connection would be on display. Uncertainty persisted during those last days. Could she conduct the show without harming her body? Could she recreate the profound impact that had characterized her professional journey? It was all lined up for either a huge win or a devastating loss. Unfaltering resolve, doubt, and optimism characterized Celine Dion's path to the Paris Olympics. With the grit of an athlete hell-bent on getting back on stage, she gradually recovered after 5 days of intense vocal and physical treatment. Standing ovation after standing ovation appeared to never end as she presented the last prize at the 2024 Grammys with her son, René Charles, in a rare public appearance. Her unwavering determination in the face of hardship was recognized with that standing ovation, as was her lasting impact. Her intention to return to performance was indicated in this public occasion, albeit it was far from definite. Her documentary, I Am Celine Dion, which chronicled her struggle with SPS and her attempts to make a stage comeback, was presented in June. Even though her condition was unpredictable, she delivered an emotional interview to Hoda Kotb later that month, expressing confidence about performing again. She said, "I'm fighting for every step forward," but she couldn't say whether she would ever be 100%. Shortly after, word got out that Dion was getting ready to perform in the opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics. This would be a watershed moment, either a triumphant return to the international arena or a terrifying new task. She immersed herself in practices for months before the performance, regaining her strength and honing her voice. Every step was uncertain due to the residual consequences of her disease, and the weight of failure was on her shoulders. Emotional and professional stakes were equal. On the night of the performance and throughout rehearsals, her son René Charles, who had been her rock the whole way, was at her side. Being in his company brought her comfort and strength, as it brought back memories of the strong family relationship that had helped her overcome her worst fears. July 26, 2024, finally arrived. The opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics saw the long-awaited return of Celine Dion to the stage. Her breathtaking solo performance of Hymne à l'Amour once again captivated listeners. The performance was a watershed moment that represented her unwavering determination and the raw emotion and perseverance that had been building up to it over the years. René Charles was utterly taken aback backstage. The triumph of Celine Dion's return to the Olympics will be remembered by her admirers for a long time. It was her first big public appearance since her diagnosis of stiff person syndrome, which had left many wondering if she would ever perform live again. A stunning performance of Hymne à l'Amour, Edith Piaf's classic that has stood the test of time, was the culmination of Dion's resolve to do what she loved again. At the opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics, Celine Dion performed Edith Piaf's hymn à l'amour, a song with deep symbolic meaning. Intimately connected to Dion's life story, the song has become an enduring hymn of love and perseverance. She had an unbreakable link with her children, a heartfelt expression of her love for her late husband, René Angélil, and a lasting impact on her audience. Hymn à l'amour's lyrics, which reflect Dion's life during the last many years, are about unfaltering commitment in the face of overwhelming obstacles. Every note she sung seemed to be a proclamation of her will to triumph over the devastating consequences of stiff person syndrome and the loss of her spouse. She was grateful to all who had been there for her. The literary richness and honest passion of the song elevated her performance to the level of a personal tale, weaving together her victorious homecoming from her past tribulations. The crowd went still as Dion took the stage, her voice echoing the sorrow she had endured. Her voice tone was a little different from the immaculate sound that fans recalled, but it still reeked of genuine emotion and intensity. Her fight and triumph were encapsulated in every word of Hymn à l'amour. Every note had the listeners spellbound. The journalists and fans who had followed her tale for years could not help but feel the gravity of the event. It was evident that Celine Dion had triumphed against all odds when she stepped on stage, her voice echoing through the Parisian atmosphere, despite widespread fears that her diagnosis would spell the end of her legendary career. The subsequent resounding standing ovation was a tribute to her evergreen skill and the power of the human will. The threat from SPS to end Dion's career as a singer was the final straw. Both the world and herself were reminded that she might yet achieve greatness that fateful night in Paris. This moment served as a turning point in her recuperation and career, proving that the human spirit can conquer enormous adversity. As his mother's cry echoed through the Paris Olympic Stadium, René Charles Angélil stood still, his gaze locked on her. While René Charles's performance of Hymn à l'amour moved the audience with its rendition of a great song, it was a profoundly personal victory for her, marking the end of a journey filled with hardship, optimism, and personal growth. The family questioned Celine's ability to perform again in the months preceding the show. At times, she contemplated withdrawing due to the exhaustion and uncertainty brought on by her sickness. "Maybe it's time to let go," René Charles overheard her whisper at one point. Hearing her say, "I don't want to disappoint anyone," jolted him, and the family started to consider the possibility that her career was gone as a result of her first self-doubt. René Charles, however, maintained her faith in her at all times. Reminding her of the resilience she had always shown in the face of adversity, he gently gave words of encouragement. Suddenly, though, everything shifted. Celine regained her will to sing and fight back against the things that her sickness had taken. She informed René Charles about the potential to participate in the Paris Olympics, and he was both surprised and optimistic. "Mom, are you sure?" "Are you sure?" he inquired. "I need to try." Her response was unwavering and solid, and as he saw her that evening in Paris, a rush of memories came flooding back. Remembering the weak lady who needed help walking, her voice quivering from sickness, and the time she questioned if she would perform ever again, all of this came to mind while he was thinking about her. Still, there she was, basking in the glow of the Olympic lights as she looked virtually impervious to the audience's scrutiny. Not only did her speech impact him, but so did the fervor in her eyes, the vigor she had reawakened, and the perseverance that had brought her here. As he thought back on their adventure together, tears welled up in his eyes. During one of her most challenging treatment days, he had left a handwritten note on her bedside that read, "You're the strongest person I know." This incident stuck with him. She went from a frail figure to a brilliant performance, and he felt an overwhelming sense of pride as he witnessed those words come to life. René Charles couldn't help but be reminded of his father, René Angélil, when seeing her perform. He tried to put himself in his father's shoes and think of the immense pride he would feel for Celine's performance and the strength their family had shown each other through unfathomable hardships. The love and will that had brought them all this far reminded him of his father as he stood backstage. During the most moving part of Celine's performance, René Charles broke down in tears. He frantically scrubbed his face in an attempt to conceal his intense feelings from the team, but he couldn't control his reaction. Not only was he a son seeing his mother succeed, but he was also a part of a bonding experience of strength and love. Watching her perform while being aware of all the challenges she had to overcome to get that point was astounding, he reflected on the performance afterwards. This performance was more than simply a professional high point for Celine. It was a powerful statement about standing up for what you believe in and persevering when the going gets tough. René Charles saw it as proof of the unwavering connection they had developed through adversity, a demonstration of how love and determination can change lives, and a reminder to himself and everyone else of his mother and family's incredible resilience. René Charles, Celine Dion's son, was moved to tears by the remarkable change he saw in his mother on her triumphant comeback to the stage. His feelings mirrored the enormity of their shared experience, from witnessing her fight the depths of disease to witnessing her retake her due place on the international stage. The show had a profound effect on her devoted followers as well. Many had listened to her music for decades, and they had seen her battles reflected in her career. In addition to being a powerful sign of her strength, Celine's triumphant return to the stage served as an encouragement to those who were struggling with their own personal issues. Messages from admirers that her story inspired others to persevere in the face of adversity were common on social media. Her remarkable performance in the Paris Olympics showcased more than just a comeback. It served as a powerful monument to the strength that comes from love, determination, and the unbreakable tie shared between a mother and her son. The millions of followers who found inspiration in Celine's narrative, as well as her family, were the ones who ultimately underwent a metamorphosis. Is Celine Dion's return to the stage something you can look forward to? Leave a comment with your ideas. Our time here has come to an end. Until our next video, take care.